he just made a really big decision, Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
And you feel comfortable?
I do. He is someone who I have seen over and over again make decisions based on what he truly believes, based on his years of doing this work and studying these issues, what he truly believes is the right thing to do.
That did not age well.
When Americans cast their vote for president on November 5th, it is important for them to remember Kamala Harris's absolute failure in her role during the Afghanistan withdrawal 3 years ago. As the chaotic and tragic withdrawal of U.S. forces from Afghanistan unfolded on August 15, 2021, Vice President Kamala Harris faced significant criticism for her role in what has been widely regarded as a diplomatic and strategic failure. Kamala Harris, who has been closely involved in the administration's foreign policy decisions, publicly supported President Joe Biden's choice to end the war in Afghanistan. She described herself as the last person in the room when the final decision to withdraw was made, indicating her integral role in shaping the course of action. However, as the situation on the ground deteriorated rapidly, Harris's involvement came under intense scrutiny. Critics have argued that the vice president failed to foresee or mitigate the disastrous consequences of the withdrawal. Intelligence reports and warnings from military leaders about the potential for a swift Taliban takeover and the fragile state of the Afghan government appeared to have been ignored or underestimated. Harris's support for the withdrawal, without ensuring a stable and secure exit strategy, has been labeled by many as a significant misstep. The withdrawal, intended to end America's longest war, instead plunged the country into a humanitarian crisis, with tragic consequences for American forces and Afghan civilians alike. As the Taliban rapidly seized control of the country, including the capital city of Kabul, the final days of the U.S. presence in Afghanistan were marked by a desperate evacuation effort, confusion, and violence. In the days following the fall of Kabul, Harris remained largely out of the public eye, fueling speculation about her leadership during the crisis. When she eventually addressed the situation, her comments were perceived as deflecting responsibility rather than acknowledging the administration's failures. In the midst of this harrowing evacuation at Hamid Karzai, the names of these 13 U.S. service members who bravely lost their lives fighting for our country were Staff Sergeant Darren T. Hoover, Sergeant Johanny Rosario Pichardo, Sergeant Nicole L.G., Corporal Hunter Lopez, Corporal Dagan W. Page, Corporal Humberto A. Sanchez, Marine Corps Lance Corporal David L. Espinoza, Lance Corporal Jared M. Schmitz, Lance Corporal Riley J. McCollum, Lance Corporal Dylan R. Marola, and Lance Corporal Kareem M. Nikoi. Kamala Harris' involvement in the Afghanistan withdrawal underscores a lack of experience and preparedness in handling complex international crises. Harris, who had little foreign policy experience prior to taking office as the vice president, has struggled to navigate the fallout from the withdrawal, which has left America's global standing damaged and its allies questioning the reliability of U.S. leadership. The fall of Kabul and the chaotic evacuation marked the end of a fraught and controversial war that began in response to the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. The original mission, to dismantle al-Qaeda and remove the Taliban from power, evolved into a prolonged and complex conflict involving nation-building efforts. For Kamala Harris, the Afghanistan debacle has tarnished her credibility on the world stage and raised questions about her role in future foreign policy decisions. The Biden-Harris administration faced intense criticism for the withdrawal, with many arguing that the situation could have been handled more competently and with greater foresight. Critics pointed to intelligence reports warning of the Taliban's rapid advance and questioned the administration's decision-making process. The scenes of chaos in Kabul, where thousands of American citizens and Afghan allies struggled to reach safety, were seen by many as a stark failure of leadership. The execution of the withdrawal has been widely condemned, with lawmakers from both parties expressing frustration over the lack of preparedness and planning. As Afghanistan faces an uncertain future under Taliban rule, The consequences of the withdrawal will continue to reverberate through U.S. politics and foreign relations. For Vice President and presumed Democrat nominee Harris, the withdrawal represents a significant blemish on her record, one that the American people should remember when casting their vote for who they want to elect as president on November 5th. For the families of the 13 fallen soldiers, the events of August 26th were a bitter and heartbreaking end to a war that had already taken so much. Their loss and the broader failure of the evacuation effort has left many Americans questioning the competence of the Biden-Harris administration and the wisdom of its decisions. We must never forget these 13 fallen soldiers. It is imperative the American people remember Kamala Harris's complete and utter incompetence when voting this election. Electing Kamala Harris as president would mean that we would become even more of a laughingstock than we already have become under the Biden-Harris administration. World leaders saw firsthand the disaster that was the Afghanistan withdrawal, in which another 4 years of this horrible leadership would make the USA even more susceptible to terrorist threats than we already are with the current open border policies that the Biden-Harris administration have implemented. The Taliban are laughing at us, and the rest of the world will be laughing even harder if we don't elect President Donald Trump back into office.